I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Franklin Tourism Commission and take roll call. Ed Holford. Here. Mark Weil. Present. Barbara Wesner.
Here.
Jeff Kadersky.
Here.
Present. If you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is 6:01, and I'd like to formally open up the citizen comment period. We haven't been as formal maybe as the Common Council, but it would be helpful, I think, with the recording if anyone interested in commenting would just state their name and if they're affiliated with an organization to tell us what that is, or if not, maybe just to give an address here. All right. Citizen comment period is open. Who'd like to?
Where would you go?
Oh, right there is good. Yeah, thank you.
Rich Busalaki, 7772 Tuckaway Shores Drive, Franklin, Wisconsin. I'm here representing myself and the concerned residents affected by noise at from Ballpark Commons. Just a quick 30-second background. I served on the Milwaukee Hotel and Lodging Association for about 6 years. I've also been actively involved in the hospitality industry for 25 years of my life, in addition to being the Dean of the School of Business at MATC, and for a good chunk of that time being the Associate Dean for the hospitality programs, culinary, baking, travel, tourism, meeting event management, and hotel hospitality. The reason appearing before you tonight, and I will try to be as fast as I can, I know your time is limited, is to talk about two items, if I could ask that, and I tried to put everything in a document for you. One is...
Rich, do you have another one of those documents?
Absolutely.
Do you like one also? Can I get two?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The first item is to address the $1.5 million naming rights sponsorship for Ballpark Commons, and the other one is to discuss Engage Franklin. The $1.5 million under naming rights, based upon everything I know, and to give you a little bit about my age, I think I was on the board of the Hotel and Lodging Association just about the time the hotel room tax came into being. So I'm familiar enough with the hotel room tax, and I've brushed up even a little more. The concern is that based upon the interpretation of the room tax law, that the expenditure from the commission of the $1.5 million may not have been an appropriate expenditure. The expenditure requirements in the law require to increase hotel rooms, that's the room nights, that's the major number one. The second is, and I'm not going to go into the document, but you can read it and answer any questions that you might have. The other one is transient tourism, and in case you don't know what transient tourism is, it's on page 4, and there's a definition of transient tourism. At the end, the hotel room tax is really intended, a wise person once told me that, with the rising tide, all ships rise, and that's absolutely true. But it's about all ships rising, not about one ship rising. And in this case, what it appears to be is that the commission, no blame, before, after, current, the $1.5 million is not, those room nights, whether the commission paid $1.5 million over 10 years, would happen anyway. And let me just give you an example. In Enchant, I'm sure the businesses around here are doing great, and that's great that that's happening because of an event. The room nights, whether you paid $1.5 million to put Ballpark Commons, Franklin Field on that field, that's going to happen regardless of the $1.5 million. Little League Baseball, when Little League Baseball comes in and there's a tournament on the weekend, those room nights are going to happen regardless of paying $1.5 million. If you look at what I gave you in the initial contract for the $1.5 million, If I was Carmex or Saputo Cheese, I would be all over those naming rights because I have a gooder service that I want to get exposure of. I want to get people to try my product. I want to do sampling. I want to do couponing. I want everything that this agreement benefit does for my business or my product. This agreement does nothing and was not written for a municipality. It was written for a for-profit business that has a gooder service. So, based upon discussions I've had with the Department of Revenue and a couple other areas, nobody's going to officially go on the record and opine, but the sentiment seems to be the same, that the expenditure, if you look at, and I'm not going to read any of this to you, if you look at page 3, FM, what's listed there as allowable expenditures, it doesn't meet any of those expenditures. Then let's go to Engage Franklin. Part of the concern, and again, this is not about the concept of a DMO. A DMO is an absolutely brilliant idea for Franklin. The issue and the concern with the DMO is that every connection to it is to Ballpark Commons, from when it was initiated, the papers that were filed, the person that's getting paid by Ballpark Commons, even in the agreement. Oh, by the way, the agreement, when we talk about room nights, the agreement for the naming rights doesn't mention anything about increasing room nights or increasing transient tourism. Not one word of it. But what the agreement does mention, and this is where this starts to get sticky and starts to look like there's a conflict of interest and look like this might be self-serving, is that as part of this, the commission had to create a 501c4. And by the way, according to the state statutes, the commission can't create a 501c4, but that's what the contract required. So somebody created a 501c4, and it was under Ballpark Commons. So the 501c4 is created, and the contract for the naming rights even requires the commission to create Engage Franklin as part of a naming rights and signage contract. Apples and oranges. Why in the contract is Engage Franklin part of something that is a naming rights contract and a sponsorship? Other than to put the hook in, editorial comment, put the hook into the commission so that way everything's done as a package deal. So now we have Engage Franklin that's created, that's beholden to Ballpark Commons and is beholden to Mike Zimmerman. We do have a Lobbies Tourism Center at Ballpark Commons. I have to go there if I want tourism, and it benefits the Rock because you have to go there. By the way, I've tried calling 3 times the number that's listed. Nobody's answered, and I've done that over the last week. I understand there's a new board coming on. I'd love to know who the new board is. I'd love to know who's appointing the board. I'd love to know who the board is affiliated with. And is this really, at the end of the day, and by the way, there's also a paid staff member by Ballpark Commons. Is this really an arm's length relationship that's for the benefit of all of the businesses, hospitality businesses of Franklin? Or is this really, at the beginning, a way for an organization, a for-profit organization, to be able to access $150,000 a year, and then as of the last room tax report, there's another $120,000 that's left to be used by a DMO. And at the end of the day, who really controls the money that the Tourism Commission is giving the DMO? Is it the DMO or is it Ballpark Commons? And then you can see the complaints that we filed and believe that what is happening here with this 501c4, not a C6, is very similar in nature to the same complaints that have been filed against the 501c3 with Ballpark Commons and the Rock Foundation. Very similar complaints. So a complaint has been filed with the IRS as well as the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. But based upon the IRS ruling, it appears that what is happening and the way this has been set up doesn't meet the IRS requirements, nor does it meet the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. You have all of the information. I know this isn't a question and answer session. It's public comment, but if anybody after the meeting would like more information, I'd be happy to provide.
Thank you. Rick.
I'm Daryl Malik, 8230 River Terrace Drive. I am the president of Engage Franklin, and I'm here, unfortunately, to repeat a lot of the stuff that I said before the Common Council last week. What Mr. Busalaki just said, 90% of it is not true, and I can go down the list. I'm not going to take a lot of time here, but I'm just going to say there's a very clear motive here of what's going on, in that Mr. Busalaki was already informed of the facts, but he still today misstated those. So Engage Franklin controls 100% of the budget that it's provided with our board of directors, which was pretty much agreed to by the Tourism Commission, what the makeup of that board of directors is. I've told him that, but he's ignored it. That is very much true that The Rock, Mike Zimmerman, controls absolutely nothing with Engage Franklin. Absolutely nothing. And the board is made up of people that the majority of them are not associated with The Rock. It's as simple as that. No one is getting paid by Ballpark Commons anymore. Laura Nelson was, to Mike Zimmerman's credit, Laura Nelson's whole salary was paid by Mike Zimmerman, and that helped create Engage Franklin. That's a positive thing. I don't know how you can take somebody that's willing to do that for our community, knowing what's coming around the corner. We're going to get 30% of all this extra hotel revenue. How on earth that could be a bad thing that somebody donates that amount of money to our community is beyond, I don't understand it. So that's that. But Laura is no longer getting paid. Nobody is getting paid by The Rock. So there's that. It's not true at all that the Tourism Commission was expected to create Engage Franklin. It says as part of the agreement, Engage Franklin shall be created. It doesn't say the Tourism Commission shall create it.
In the document.
It doesn't read it. Eddie, I'm not going to argue with you. This is my turn. I didn't say a word while you were up here.
Okay, it's in the document. Just
Stop.
Here you go.
Stop. I have that. I know what you're saying. It's not there. It says it shall be created. In any case, it's a good thing. You seem to have a big problem with good things. So it's not beholden to Mike Zimmerman. We thank Mike Zimmerman for The Rock and everything he did. Regarding the naming rights agreement, we are where we are. I can say that I don't necessarily agree with everything that happened with that, but we are where we are. There's absolutely an argument that everything that Mr. Busalaki, you mentioned, the Little League, and it's not Little League, by the way, it's select baseball, it's high-end baseball, but whatever, doesn't matter. All these events, Enchant Christmas, none of that, and I mean none of that happens if it's not for Mike Zimmerman and the stadium. None of it. So whether you say that's the actual naming rights isn't promoting, I agree. I don't know that you could honestly say that Franklin Field itself is going to bring that, but it sure contributes to the development, and that word is all over the statute. So I don't know how you can argue that. So, and again, I could go on, but this is getting very old in that Mr. Busalaki continues to bring up things that are just flat out wrong and untrue. We are working very, very hard, as the Tourism Commission knows, to make this work. And any one of these type of events and these comments just hurts the city. It hurts the citizens. It hurts the community. And I do take it personally. You're not supposed to. I have nothing to do with that. The reason I'm here is to make sure it's done right and it's done fairly and it's done in the best interest of the citizen. I'm not getting paid. So that's what I'm here for. And hopefully you guys see through all that. Hopefully you understand that. Hopefully Mr. Busalaki goes back and listens to all the meetings that we've talked about this before and starts telling the truth and withholds the lies. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Daryl?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Andy Thompson. I'm here on behalf of Franklin Public Schools.
All right.
I have packets here, kind of pass around.
And it's Andy?
Andy, correct. Yeah, Andy Thompson. So I approached John, I think, in the last couple weeks, and have been kind of going around to various organizations in the city and putting my sales cap on as the main request here. There's only 5 copies, so sorry about that.
I'll share with John.
Yeah. The main request, all the information is going to be in there if actual, but I'll go through these kind of requests here as much as I can. What I'm kind of requesting and what the project we're working on is we're trying to fundraise for an LED scoreboard for the outside football field as well as inside the basketball courts at the high school. And there are a couple of options, partners in there, anchor and founding partners. So I've been kind of reaching out to a lot of large organizations, small organizations, all throughout kind of places, just kind of gearing up a project that was started last fall into the spring. Transition of a new athletics director, we've kind of gotten full steam on it. So that is kind of what the request is. The timing of everything would look to ideally be if we can raise all the funds to have it put into the ground for next season outside at the football stadium, as well as in sports for the winter season as well. So the impact of how tourism, how it could potentially impact tourism, right? So as it stands, about 17,000 people attend events at the football field. I would estimate about 30% of those people come from a different community. So within that said, all those facts and everything will be in there. But then there's lots of other things that we can do can attract the community. I mean, you're going to have a really large screen. You could start showcasing movie nights, where you could have people come in and watch, old movies, new movies, everything. You could do viewings for Badger basketball games. You could do all sorts of things that could kind of bring the community together, that would bring these transient visitors as well as people that could potentially stay in hotels, right? I mean, there's all sorts of things that could be done that could kind of generate people coming in and spending more time in the city. All sorts of creativity, as long as it kind of gets done. So the budget, I mean, there's 2 options in there that'll kind of be listed. Right, the numbers are in there. I'm not going to kind of cover those, but we're kind of looking at 2 opportunities. And additionally, if you have any connections within the city or any businesses yourself too, certainly you can reach out to. I think Cordell's information is on there. He and myself are kind of working together, but tonight he's at the school board meeting because they're kind of presenting something else tonight at our school board meeting. So we kind of had to split up a little bit to kind of cover 2 places at once because that started at 6 o'clock tonight too. And I think that it's pretty detailed how the funding will get used in there. It's going to be something that's going to directly impact an LED screen that could, do lots of things. I mean, the more I've worked with Daktronics, it's really cool because they provide a lot of opportunities for young people with certifications they can get and training that can turn into career opportunities for them too. So it's a great way to kind of just, if the city's not interested, any businesses that you have that could potentially, know of or anything, certainly reach out because it is going to take a lot of time, and we've kind of already gotten some commitments from places, which is great, and we just started a few weeks ago. So it's exciting, and it's a great opportunity, and something really great because our athletics programs continue to do and perform at some of the top levels in the state when it comes to, I mean, it seems like every week there's a new club or sport that's participating at the state level. So thank you all for your time. Good evening.
What's the timing? What do you want to do?
We'd like it, all the funds done by June 1st. And then that way it takes about 2 months lead time to get everything ordered and put in. So ideally we'd like it in for the football season next fall. So all the funds kind of procured by around June. It should be the latest.
So you have pictures of indoor and outdoor.
Correct.
2 screens, or one moves from the other? Or?
So it's going to technically be 3 screens, kind of 2 inside for basketball and then 1 outside for football. And there's 2 opportunities. One's anchor, one's founding partner. There's kind of some different placements of where it would kind of be as far as that goes.
What are you anticipating the total cost of the project?
Total project cost is right around $568,000.
Sorry?
$568,000. And that includes some cost for maintenance as well in there.
Okay, and then it says in here, through the sponsorships, it would be minimal cost to the district. Do you have any rough estimate of what portion of the district might be covered?
it's going to be some of the installation and just some of those various things. The primarily bulk, like 90% is going to be funded through sponsorships for it.
Okay, and what happens if, like, happened with the stadium in general, where we had a group that said we're going to raise the funds and do it, and then we ended up in short. We came back to the school district for the difference. Would that be the same situation here?
I mean, I can't fully speak to that, but I would obviously the first goal is to raise it, and then conversations will be happening in the spring of if the district kind of support the rest or what kind of can happen with that. I don't know, right? I've seen projects where these things have happened, and unfortunately, the funds get returned, and they don't even kind of transact, and then it doesn't happen. It is kind of taking a leap of faith with doing it, and hopeful that we can kind of get the sponsorships. I'm confident that having already locked in 2 or 3 of them out of the 8 in just a few weeks, that we can hopefully get to where we need to be. But yeah, that's definitely always a concern.
I just didn't know if it was
Pretty much all sponsorships.
or if that doesn't happen, the district would cover 25% or whatever. And I understand you won't know that for sure.
Correct. There's been nothing that I've been shared with that kind of speaks to like a contingency if like this happen, if we don't, like you said, get to a certain mark, if there's going to be anything kicked in. So, I think it's, yeah.
Is there any estimate on the cost of maintenance once it's installed?
So some of the $568,000 is going to include maintenance for up to like 10 years, I believe. I believe you get 8 to 12 years roughly, then replacements start occurring with needing kind of new bulbs and that sort of thing. But I believe there was kind of that built in to kind of have that, because that's always a point of thought with these expensive projects is there needs to be money set aside for something like that. And I believe it was going to be at least 10 years kind of built in. Yeah.
Andy, just so that we don't duplicate efforts here, have you talked or reached out to anyone from Engage Franklin?
I have not, no.
Okay. They've got a list of, they've started to collect all the tourism assets and the business in the city of Franklin. And you mentioned reaching out to business. So I'm just wondering if we can certainly pass this along for you, but I might reach out to Franklin.
Yeah.
Not only just to find out what they might be able to, what resources they can provide, but also for more additional, possibility sponsors.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point, and I will definitely reach out to that. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other citizens looking to comment. So if we can, at this point, I'd like to close the citizen comment period at 6:23. And if we can, move on to taking a look at our meeting minutes from the October 18th meeting. Draft minutes approval, I'm sorry. First of all, were there any comments, questions on the meeting minutes as they're shown here in the packet?
Being none, I would move to approve.
Right, we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I would second.
Second by Barbara. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of the November 15th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And it's approved. Moving on to reports. And, oops, I lost my agenda, I'm sorry. There we go. Moving on to report. And the line item of Engage Franklin, Mark. Status of what's happening.
So the board of Engage Franklin met on Monday to review the budget for the year that's been approved. Also to discuss replacement of Laura. She's moving into the new function. The board wants to accelerate her replacement. The plan was to go part-time for a while. We've asked her to start lining up candidates and have everything in place by end of March. And as Daryl said, she is being paid 100% by. So that's the update.
Okay.
talked mostly about the chant. That's
I can ask a
Yes.
question, Mark. We had talked about it, and I know your board talked about certain milestones, mile markers, so to speak, that Laura was expected to accomplish. So with her moving on and a new person coming, how is that going to impact?
shouldn't impact because the website is, I don't have an actual percentage, but it's like 90% done and ready to go. In the final throes of being introduced. She has a draft of a visitor's guide that she had been using when she went to the PTA sports show. That I think is taking shape. She is committed that that will all be done before she. And actually, her plan is, if the board invites her, stay on the board. Not be the executive director. Won't be doing the grunt work. I know the golf show is still coming in. That's signed up. Mr. Guide, hand out bags. I think she's on track to do all those things that she committed to. She has been continuing to meet with the other groups that they were talking to in terms of coming into Franklin Field next year, and that's all continuing on too.
So you said her intent is to have the visitor guide done by the time she's...
I think in conjunction with the website. And part of that is they want to have, you know how we have the quarterly newsletter from the city? We want to have a page in there that talks about what Engage Franklin Tourism Commission. And she's already drafted that up. Daryl said maybe we can get it into the next newsletter. And I said, I don't think so, because that's probably coming out like this week.
Has anybody talked to Lisa that puts that out here?
Somebody had, but she is no longer involved. So we have to revisit that. So I asked him, I said, make more sense to do it in the first quarter. I think that will take place too. And that would be along with the public introduction of here's what Engage Franklin.
With regards to the visitor piece,
yeah.
Are you anticipating that she'll have all the sales and everything for that done before she?
Sales.
So then I would suggest, I know Barb has brought it up in the past, that there are other ways to accomplish that. That would, where somebody else would come in and do all of the sales of it, and that would alleviate that from the new person.
By sales, you're talking about.
Well, she was going to sell ads to pay for the.
Yeah, so that whole thing of ads and stuff, want to get to that. Talked about that as a theory. Right now, what we're working on is here's what Engage is. The website will have room for people to sponsor, buy ads. That can be added at a later time.
Well, I guess I would suggest, unless Barb, you think differently, that maybe you guys would want to take a look at some of those other options,
yeah,
where somebody would come in and take care of those ad sales. And typically what my experience has been, they'll do the promotion, and most of them will even cut you a check for a percentage of it.
Yeah.
And I think it would
you're
make
talking about the visitors guide, right?
Yes. I think it would be faster and easier, at least initially, to get something like that done. But I'd leave that up to Barb.
I think the immediate priority right now is to hire the replacement, get him or her in place, and then that would be a great first thing. We can work on it.
Barbara, isn't it the tough part there, the content in a publication like that?
Right, so there's one thing, and I'm speaking from the experience I had with the chamber, with our director. Hire someone, they do all the advertising and all the solicitation, but then there is content. Sometimes that organization, some of the development. But that most of the time you want to have control.
Yeah.
Make sure your message is there. I'm not sure if, I'm sure there are many organizations out there that can do that, or hiring a PR firm. So there are options, rather than trying to do it all internally.
Yeah, I don't think she intended to do it all herself. And she has money to hiring contractors.
Okay, that's good.
Any other questions? Just for everyone in the room here, this Mark is a board member of H. Franklin and our liaison. Moving on to unfinished business, the Franklin Tourism Commission request for assistance guidelines form. Now in your packet, John found
Guidelines.
the guidelines, yes. And this document, I vaguely recall it. I think it's an early, right?
This was something we did like year 2.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Because when I look at these, remember we started with a mission statement early on,
Right.
and core values, but again, that's what led me to believe this document is. It was an early draft because these pillars, I remember talking about that, but now as I read through that, it looked at you tightened up a little bit to maybe be a little more helpful, because I think this document was designed to help someone who's requesting or trying to determine whether their request for funding falls within appropriate use of room tax funds. But this is, I'm glad we found this, because there's a lot of
There's some good content.
there's a lot of good content here, and a lot of time and effort went in.
And I think we did use it for a couple entities.
That's
Then it kind
what
of
I've
fell
got
by
on record, so
Right.
when I'm using it, if I get a request.
Right.
And this I think is very similar to what I used to use back when I used to collect a paycheck. We used forms like this to gauge, is this a good fit? Should we bring you into our circle? In terms of tightening up, we certainly can. But I think it's a good concept to keep in place.
Well, absolutely, right. That was one of the immediate needs we identified. How can we help people that were coming to the mission, even just formulate their plans or their ideas and their request?
Well, so the gentleman from the school board, it'd be good to have him come back and explain some of this in terms of here's how your involvement could help this,
Right.
or how this could help you as a commission. That'd be beneficial.
We all have this as part of the electronic packet, right? So each one of you has a copy of the PDF document. Yes, where would you, we talked about findings of this, so we can review it. Don't know how much time you've all had to just, step through it and get any thoughts. How'd you like to handle this? Is this something where we, obviously it's the form we have now for anyone that's inquiring. Not changing that, but as far as just reviews and thoughts from all, this is the board's, changed from the time that, or the commission members have changed from the time that this was originally done. I'm asking the question, is it appropriate to have commission members take a look at this over between this meeting and the next one to weigh in and say, you know what, I've read through this, I like it as is, or, based on discussions we've been having and things that have come our way, I think can we consider this? Asking what your thoughts are on where we take this form, if anywhere.
I thought it was good, pretty useful, and I think it spells it out. I think it's something that could actually post on the website if someone would have a request to use. Not not specific enough that nothing's in here that changed. I guess.
Yeah, there's nothing in this that would preclude anybody.
Right, and I think it's a good form. I don't think we reinvent the wheel or change it too specific or anything. I think it's just a great opportunity to share this on our website of Franklin, like to say, hey, anybody wants to have what the rule is. I mean, I'm assuming that other entities in Franklin have a form of help. This is at least a guideline. I think it's a great guideline. As is.
Okay. Was there an actual format for this, John? Did you see, this is like a nice cover page for it.
Right. I mean, it's not a
is
form. I
there-
mean, it spells out exactly what you're looking for.
It's just the guideline.
I don't think there was ever a form that you filled out. It was more,
That you submitted, it was
more
just-
meant to say, here, cover all this stuff and tell us what you want to do.
Put together, write a proposal,
Yeah.
answer questions in your proposal.
I could probably get the form that they use for New Berlin's group, and that asked all the questions so they could rank the different proposals. The other thing is, if we go down this road, then it looks like we would have to allocate a pot for this. Otherwise, we'd have unbudgeted expense. And we have such a commitment right now going to be engaged, and we've got our signage and stuff like that.
Right.
We would probably want to identify the dollar amount. Excuse me, that would be available, I would think.
Well, in our current budget that we submitted to the city has a line item for events.
Yeah, I thought
10,000 in there.
there was an extra bucket of money.
But there's a net.
So the comment about posting this on the website is a good one, because I guess my next question would be, somebody's, exploring, like the presentation we had tonight.
If somebody calls John and says, could we do this? He can,
Well, that's what I'm wondering, like, if any one of us is approached, are we funneling, are we just saying, contact John at the city and send you some information, or we'll send you the piece?
that's,
We have a net of $17,900. In our project.
okay. To your point, that's what I've done with other people that ask me, how do I do something? I give them John's name.
Sound good?
Again, it's a guideline
Yeah.
for a request. Doesn't mean that we can or can't do it. But
Right.
it's a request that they ask for money. We don't have it in our budget. Maybe something we look at for future. I mean, we don't have to plan on requests for funding. It's a guideline how to fund. Just like, where I'm at, if you want to request a donation, you have to have it on your letterhead. You have to know what you're using it for, the date, the time, same thing. It's all in here, spelled out.
Right.
So I think it's just a guideline. You got to remember, it's not a request guideline.
And it could be that it's something that we end up looking at and saying, this is more of an Engage Franklin thing. Make that connection. That there's no, certainly their guiding principles will be different. But the information they're going to ask for will be very similar, I think.
You have to take a look at what the project.
Sure.
You have latitude you have extends into capital expenditure facilities. So something you want to take a look at, and yeah, for short-term approvals, got that net still out there. Amend your budget, include something more substantial for an interest, something that you would get involved in for an approval and investing.
Any other discussion on that? Heather?
I'm glad you found that form.
Yeah.
Or not the form, the letter.
I knew what I was looking for. Someone said, yeah, go find some background on this item. So then I can start digging. There's lots of resolutions and things that are in the files.
All right. We kept this on the agenda. We talking about lots of potential activities, and specifically we were looking at this broader coordination. And it's in the meeting. I think it's in your meeting minutes from the last meeting. Is there anything we need to add to that tonight, or anyone wants to talk about in regard to let's just take on the previous was about Parks and Rec and coordination, civic activities.
Could I just ask, because I wasn't at the last meeting, what the Parks and Rec are referring to?
So most communities have a combined Parks and Rec department. So the city has Parks Department, the school district has the Rec Department.
Okay.
So most of their stuff, their activities are done in school facilities. And it's a lot of classes, those kind of activities. So in conversation with the Park and Rec Department at Greenfield, I asked them like, who's scheduling like their concerts, their farmers market, all the different activities they have. It's all done through their Park and Rec Department. So school districts got funding that they use for recreation. We've got funding for park. The question that I had, and I brought it here, but it's really beyond this group, is the Rec Department willing to do, if we put in a shopping center up there and it's got a town square and it can have activities and tree lighting and all of that, is the Rec Department going to want to do that? Is it going to be an expectation of the city to do that? Do we expect a volunteer group that does the 4th of July to do that? So that was my thought to get the whole thing started. I had a conversation with Ian from Land by Label. It's going to do the project up there, and he and his people are going to kind of help do a little survey of the surrounding communities to see how they do that.
Okay.
So that we could sit down. Because I asked Ian, I said, now, if you're running that facility up there, do you plan on having somebody that would do event planning and go to the different shops and all that? Well, he's envisioning maybe like almost like a bid district, or all the businesses would have to pay X amount a month. They had a pool that they could do promotional events for the shops and things like that. So I'm just trying to get out ahead of it to look at, as we go into the future, how that stuff might be handled, who's responsible,
It makes sense.
where
And
the
I
money would come from.
think at the town hall that he hosted, kind of made it sound like they, Land by Label, handling a lot of that stuff. But he didn't talk about the mechanics of how. So it's a good idea to get on top of that.
I mean, I'm on Civic Celebrations, right? So they tried the winter thing, and the attendance was pretty light. Last year was light for the tree lighting because they had a big gap in time and it was really cold. And then some people made the comment, well, you look at the tree and you got Enchant and you got what's going on at Whitnall Park, and our tree looks a little sparse, you know. And I asked John, the chairman of the Civic Celebrations, I said, do you think people would mind if, what if the Orchard View thing went through and they wanted to have a tree lighting up there? He goes, I think we'd welcome it. So it's just like I said, I'm trying to look toward the future and be as prepared as we can be.
Yeah, thanks. I understand the Parks and Rec thing now better. Helps.
Any other discussion on the point? All right. We move on to new business. In your packet, there is the request, John, that you received from
Franklin
Franklin
Park
Parks
Concerts.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about what was donated, what was being donated.
We donated $500, and they asked to be included in our budget. Last year, when they requested or made that request that it be in the budget, we decided, well, we designate $500. Budgeted $1,000. Participating. And so they've sent the request, please include us in your budget. So I guess my question is, under new business, is, should we ask them for a presentation on their request, or want to have them give us an actual number for a request, or allocate this year what we allocated last year, $500 in January?
This slippery slope, because last year when we talked about it, that's part of the discussion. This really should be an, because the concern was this result in overnight stays, and yet it is tourism. It is getting people to come to the Polish Center or any other restaurants. Tourism. You probably get over.
So much.
But and I think last year we decided to go, let's 500, because I think we did that like 3 years ago.
Yeah, we had to in previous years.
Yeah, so there is a precedent there that we contributed to this particular entity. Having said that, I'm not establishing whether I'm a yes or no. I'm just saying that's the background.
Engage. So
I think it'd be helpful if we had some information, data from them to say, hey, we did what we did for one event, created 1,000 people. If they have any of that, or what they did, like I said, going back to our guidelines, what are they using money for? If there was some type of impact that we had,
right? Yeah, it just looks like operating.
Yeah.
We
But-
could have them do it more detailed.
But I mean, if they, I guess if they have a plan in place, that we can make a better judgment.
In years past, they've had like 4,
Yes, I think it's 4 of the summer.
and we were listed as the main sponsor for one of them. We were listed in the bulletin for all of them.
I believe so. And there was also a poster at the concert with our name on it. And we're also recognized publicly. Someone will thank all the sponsors. Thanked. I have attended the concerts in the past, and they draw between 300 and 400 people, easy.
Yeah.
I was asked one time to start counting. I counted. So they do have those numbers, and they have that information. I wanted to get that kind of information. The sorts of entertainment they will bring in, it varies. They've had the Concord Chamber, the Concord Orchestra, so a little more classical stuff. They've done some of the rock and roll, sort of the 60s and 70s sort of thing. So
A subset of MSO that want
to. Right. So they've done it's a nice variety. And what's interesting is that it truly is a family event. A lot of grandparents bring their grandkids. See a lot of that sort of thing. I remember one year there was a 2-week-old baby that they wanted to bring their child to this thing. So anyway, it's a very, very very nice family event that well attended, and not just from Franklin. There are people from throughout the whole area.
Right. Come in.
So overnight stays, probably not. Maybe for the entertainers, I'm not sure. But it is a very nice event.
Going back to what I said earlier, feel-good event for this. Not necessarily overnight stays, but yet we have done it. And so
Visitors come to it. You think visitors come to it?
From outside the city?
Well, if there's visitors in the city looking for something,
Oh. Probably. No, I'm not sure if we've ever done, I'm not sure that they've ever done like a survey.
right?
But,
Well, they can tell the crowd that
yeah, you
it's
can.
unfamiliar.
Or you just chat. with
Part of
people.
that's referrals at our establishment too. Someone
Right.
says, hey, what's there to do?
Mhm.
But again, that comes back to visitors.
Right.
Having an issue. I just say that because we discussed tourism development 101.
Right.
If you-
But it doesn't seem like they're opposed to providing information. They put together actually a nice letter. And it has the beginnings of and some support for why we're even asking. So, just a comment and maybe a suggestion, but we asked them to just make a more formal request, put a dollar amount to it,
Tell us
whether it's
which
what we've
concerts
given you in
you're
the
gonna
past
be
or
here.
what you aspirational, you know, and what you what you do with that money and how you believe that supports visitation to Franklin. You know, so ask them to make a formal, just a written request.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send that to them
Okay.
and ask.
All right. Voucher approval. So we've got the banners.
Right.
The invoice for banners.
And, our plan is we have $15,000 in our budget for the banner program. And we talked the last meeting about utilizing that to purchase the actual banners themselves. And then the new mounts, which are spring-loaded, so they need to be designed, mounted, and purchased. And off the top of the fella's head, I think $38,000.
38 for the mounts. The
For
spring
the-
things.
For the bracket. Yeah. And, I think mounting them would be extra in
Yeah.
addition. So that can really push our $50,000 budget to have next year. So we're going to utilize the budget this year and get banners is recommended because heavier banners requires even heavier yet bracket. We're just trying to extend the life. So that's why I'm bringing it to you tonight. And then with approval, we'll get a purchase order done with the city and then order the bracket or order the banners. Get them.
To be 141 banners.
Let me take a look. Look through that quote. And they basically stuck with the 141. They stuck with the price that they had last.
And does this include somatic stock? That this is over and above the actual location, right? Which include extra banners for replacement?
No, it basically should cover what we have out there.
Okay.
But not all of them are totally insured. That's St. Martin's Road, where it's sheltered by trees.
Right.
Those haven't been tore up, but just about everything else.
The ones down at
exposed.
Ryan were pretty well demolished. Yeah.
And the brackets are rusted. But that's the whole idea. The springs will give in the wind.
Yeah.
And so a little more.
City have storage.
Yeah, see, because it looks like they're willing to get it by the end.
Yeah, they can do that. We can certainly store it at the DPW. I have to find out.
Just envisioning coming in here and seeing a wall of banners.
Yeah, I'll check and see. I'll ask about storage. If they're willing to do that, they may handle it themselves, but I don't know if these guys have storage either, so.
Yeah.
That's a good question I'll ask.
Well, we did have this budgeted here. We knew this was the works. So you've got the invoice in front of you. Any other questions on the invoice from Olympus?
A motion to approve.
Invoice in the amount of 14,805.
I second.
Second from Barbara. All those in favor of payment on invoice 14,805, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Voices. Do you want me to just sign the copy of my packet here, or? All right. Next meeting. We'll go back to our schedule of third Wednesday in January. How's that work for everybody?
17.
You may or may not be in town, but you guys will get by fine without me.
I don't know if that's true, Dad.
Stay with me. I'll still be in town then.
With me.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the 17th at our usual time of 6 p.m. All right. Anyone like to motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Okay.